guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today let's review Season 18 of classic Doctor Who, the first season of the 80s, and of course Tom Baker's final season in the role. And what a great season it is! It's a very unique season. There's no other season in Doctor Who quite like Season 18, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy it. This, of course, is the Standard Edition, which Simon sent to me. Simon has sent me 3 out of my 4 standard editions. I absolutely love these. And I really appreciate Simon sending that. I like the little standard edition sets. I'd love to get some more of those if anyone wants to send any more in. The P.O. box, of course, is down in the description of the video. Really appreciate the support everyone has given sending stuff. So there's a lot of changes to Season 18. Season 18 is so tonally different from Season 17. I mean, you do pretty much have a brand new staff behind the scenes as well. Now, typically this would be a good changeover period. Like in Modern Who, you get this kind of changeover behind the scenes, typically when you're bringing in a new Doctor and new companion. You know, like switching from RD1 to Moffat, switching from Moffat to Chibnall, switching from Chibnall back to RDT2. You know, you usually, when you're changing eras like that, you're also changing the lead actor and the companion a lot of times. But not so in this case. You have so much changing behind the scenes with new people coming on, but you still have your same lead actor and companion for this season. Even though, of course, Romana and K9 leave partway through, and we do have the new companions like Adric and Nyssa and Tegan introduced. But the season is so tonally different, whereas Season 17 is a little more, again, it's Douglas Adams script editing, and it really feels like a Douglas Adams season. You have that Douglas Adams style of humor. It's very light, it's very fun. It's an exciting, energetic season, whereas Season 18 is much more somber, more melancholy in the air, a sense of things coming to an end. Almost like a funeral, you know. People talk about Legopolis having kind of a funeralistic feel to it. Really, the whole season does to one extent or another. You really have this sense that, you know, the moment has been prepared for. So it's very weird in Doctor Who to have 2 seasons that two consecutive seasons that feel so tonally different from each other. Even if you look at Season 17 and look at Season 18, it's hard to believe they're consecutive seasons because they have such a different feel to them. They're both excellent seasons. I love Season 17. I love Season 18, but they are very different beasts, very different things going on in them, very different types of stories. And the fact that even the Doctor himself is very different. I always get this sense that a lot of time has passed between the ending of Shada and the beginning of the Leisure Hive. 1, Tom is wearing a different outfit. 2, he looks visibly older. Tom just looks older. And we do know that Tom was in some rough health for part of this season. I think in some stories like State of Decay, they're even having to perm his hair because he had some really rough health. Maybe it was the trouble he was, you know, him and Lala Ward was very much an up and down thing. Maybe that had him stressed out because, you know, women can do that. They can emotionally just stress you. And of course, he was very much in love with Lala, so maybe that was stressing him. I don't know if he had a physical ailment at that time. But we know he was under the weather. And he has such a more somber Doctor. The 4th Doctor is just very different in Season 18. Still good. I still think Tom's putting in a good performance. I don't think he's sleeping through the season like some people claim. I think he's putting in good performances. I always enjoy Tom's work. And I enjoyed Lala. I enjoyed the new companions coming in. I enjoy the feel of the story. I love Tom's Season 18 outfit. I liked all of Tom's outfit to one degree or another, but I love the Season 18 outfit. And I love the different approach. So, Season 18, we have 7 stories, which is the most of any Tom Baker season, actually. And they range from not very good to fantastic, really good. Maybe not necessarily top 10 of Tom Baker's era, though one of them might be. Let's talk about them in order. We start off with the Leisure Hive, which I am not that keen on. It is my second least favorite Tom Baker story, arguably. Not necessarily. Invasion of Time knocks on that door pretty hard, too. But it's nowhere near the level of bad that my least favorite Tom Baker story is, which, of course, most of you know is Power of Prowl. That's the only one of Tom's I call borderline unwatchable. I have a hard time getting through Power of Prowl. The Leisure Hive, I still find watchable. It's watchable. I can go through it. You know, if I'm going through Season 18, sometimes I skip it and go straight to Meg Loss. But most of the time, I'll go through Leisure Hive. I don't mind it. I don't think it's very good, but I don't mind going through it. I don't regret going through it. I just think it's not very good. The effects, the makeup, the lizard costumes, the people with the bells on them, it just does nothing for me. The story, I feel like it would be realized better today in Modern Who with modern effects. This is about the quality I expect from some of the more recent Modern Who stories. And I feel like Tom Baker's final season deserved better than this. Still though, like I said, I can sit through it. Next on the list is Meg Loss, which is very underrated. One of Tom's most underrated stories. I enjoy Meg Loss. I like the story. I like the fact that it actually gives a reason why Tom is in dual roles. The fact that Meg Loss is disguised as the Doctor. I tend not to like in stories when the Doctor's playing dual roles and it just happens to be a coincidence. I don't like it in The Massacre, even though I like the novelization of The Massacre. Enemy of the World, I don't care for it either. It's why I have issues with Enemy of the World, even though Troughton's putting in phenomenal performances, plural. About 4 phenomenal performances, really, if you think about it. And I don't really like in Black Orchid when they do it with Nyssa, when she's playing 2 roles. I don't really care for that either. But here it really makes sense in the plot that Meg Loss is disguised as the Doctor, and I really enjoy Tom playing both roles. I like the story. It's too short is my only complaint. The ending kind of sneaks up on you. It's just, oh, it's over? That's it? Really? That's all? I really needed another episode or 2. This would have made a good 5 or 6-parter for me. I know most people are like, you want more Meg Loss? Yes, I want more Meg Loss. I enjoyed that about it. I really think I would have liked to have seen just a little more filled out with the ending, a little more to the ending other than just it being that abrupt. Next on the list is Full Circle. And we get into the beginning of Adric. Full Circle is much like Androids of Tara, is one of those where my opinion of it changes with each viewing, although I know it's one of those I'm a little kinder toward fresh off a rewatch. It has stuff I like, stuff I don't like. It's a good introduction for Adric. I tend to like Adric with Tom. I think Adric works really well, actually, in Season 18. He's a little naive in places, but I think he works pretty well with this Tardis team. But yeah, I get a little confused with the whole life cycle with these things. It's a little convoluted for me. I like what's going on with the spaceship, how they're fixing it, but they're not fixing it because they don't know how to actually completely fix it or whatever it is. I don't like Romana being mind-controlled by the creatures. I really don't like when the companion gets mind-controlled, especially considering she's a Time Lord. You figure that'd be harder to control her like that. It just feels like they do that because they need the plot to do that. I don't really like it. But it's fine. My end result of Full Circles usually, it's fine. Then we move into State of Decay, which is my favorite of the season. I love State of Decay. That is the one that could be arguably in top 10 for Tom Baker for me. Of course, it is an older script. You know, originally it was written for Season 15. They kind of took Terrence's script out and dusted it off and used it. It works really well here. I like the casting. I love the three vampires. I like them. They have this very theatrical performance, which comes across really well. Like, some people could say it's over the top, but I don't think so. I don't think it's camp. I don't think it's over the top. It just seems like something you would see on stage. And I enjoy that. I like the performances. Like one time when the Queen vampire does her. I liked that. I enjoyed that. And the guy playing Orkhan with his You will listen to me. Time Lords, the ancient enemies. I like that. I enjoy that. Some of the effects are a bit naffed, like the King Vampire, you know, when he's rising up, and then when he's getting stabbed and dying. Yeah, yes, it could use some updated effects there. I would love for State of Decay to eventually get updated effects one day. But some of the other effects are realized really well, like when the three die, how their bodies just kind of age and disintegrate. That's actually pulled off really well, impressively well. And then I enjoy the story. This is the one where Adric is a little naive in places. You're not quite sure if he's playing for time or if he's actually on their side. He's a little naive. Again, that happens with Adric a little bit. But I enjoy it. It's a fun story. I like the castle actually being the rocket ship and the Doctor using that to his advantage. I like how it dips in the Time Lord lore, how in the ancient past they did interfere and how they fought and destroyed the vampires. I really want that to come up again in Doctor Who. Like somehow maybe one of the minions of the vampires, like a lesser vampire, somehow survived. Like a smaller scale vampire, more like what we think of with a traditional vampire. I'd love that. I'd love that. Warrior's Gate, I absolutely adore. It just has this unique look to it. I've said before on the channel that Warrior's Gate is always going to have a very distinctive look depending on what decade it was made in. Like if it was made in the 60s, it would look a certain way. If it was made in the 70s, it would look a certain way. Since it is made in the 80s, it looks a certain way. And you can extrapolate that out with the 90s to 2000s to the 2010 and today. You know, it'd look drastically, it would be realized drastically differently if it was, if it came out in 2024. So that's what that fascinates me about Warrior's Gate, is trying to figure out how the different decades and eras of the show would have realized this story on screen. I think they do a really good job with it here. I love the otherworldly, on another plane feel this story has to it. It has a neat look. And it does it with a minimum effort, I think, in the sense that it has a very minimalist approach, kind of like The Mind Robber, which I also enjoy. That fits The Mind Robber. It fits here, the way they make it work with like the white background and stuff, kind of like also in The Mind Robber. The disappearing into the mirrors. I like the time shenanigans in the dining hall. Some of the effects there are really good, like the transition from the past to the present with the axe stabbing in and the cobwebs covering it. It's really neat. I love the scene when they're trying to talk to Tom and he's like, yes, and he just knocks the cup over. I love that. The antagonist of the story, the people on the pirate ship or whatever you want to call them, the slaver ship, whatever you want to call them, they're a bit two-dimensional. They're not fleshed out very well, and the captain's hamming it up a little bit, but not in a bad way. Again, very two-dimensional, and that's a little sad, but it's not a big deal. People are kind of fitting an, you know, archetype here, which is fine, especially for a four-parter. I like the thralls or whatever they're called. I think they're fascinating. I think their costume design works. And the secret that they themselves used to be the cruel rulers is fascinating to me. I think it's just realized well, and I think it's an interesting story. Then we have The Keeper of Traken, which I enjoy. I think that's one of the best of the season. It's a great reintroduction to the Master and a great way of building the Master up. Good introduction for Nyssa. Great introduction for Anthony Ainley into the show. I love Tremas. The fact that Tremas is actually my favorite Anthony Ainley performance in the show. I love how he plays Tremas. Just this very noble, trying to do the right thing, nice character, and very intelligent. It makes what happens to him at the end all the more tragic and heartbreaking, since he is essentially killed. And, you know, it's always interesting to me that they never did more with that, where Nyssa keeps running into the Master and is basically this evil character just wearing her father's corpse, wearing his dead face. You know, there's so much they could have done with that. They touch on it a little bit in Legopolis, but they don't. You figure they would have done more with that. And in Modern Who, they would. Maybe too much with that, to be honest. But they probably would have fleshed that out more. But that's true for Nyssa in general. She just didn't get the fleshing out she needed. But I enjoy the sets. I love having the guy who played the professor in Shada. I love having him back as the keeper. Though every time he appears, I'm like, why is he not offering me some tea? I enjoy the woman playing, was it Cassandra? Is that her name? Sheamus's wife. She's really good in the role. I like the guest cast in this. I like the set design in this. I enjoy the story in this. And I like the fact that they still have the clock Tardis, which is a nice carryover from the Deadly Assassin. I like the continuity there. And then the actual bit when the Master steals Sheamus's body with the little fusion, I think that's a pretty neat effect. I like the special effect of how they do that. I think it works pretty well for classic Doctor Who. Definitely one of the strong stories of the season. And then you finish up with Logopolis, which is fine. It's a little anticlimactic in a way for a fourth Doctor story. I mean, don't get me wrong, the stakes are high. I mean, the entire universe being at stake, and some of the universe is even destroyed, including Traken, sadly. I would love for a way for the Doctor to fix Traken. Just somehow, Time Lord shenanigans for him to save Traken. I want that. But just for some reason, the execution of the story is a little ho-hum for me. It's fine. I think Logopolis is fine. I don't think it's bad by any means. And I think it would be a fine finale for some other Doctors, but for Tom, for the fourth Doctor, and the legend that he is, I kind of wish it had been better. I wish I had enjoyed it more. I like his actual regeneration. I think his actual regeneration scene is really good. The incidental music for there is fantastic. I love the fact that the fourth Doctor doesn't seem to mind regenerating because he knows it's just him getting a new body. The fact he doesn't give some long speech or throw a tantrum or anything. He just, says his line right there at the end. He gives that smile when he kind of snaps to. We get that one last Tom Baker smile, which I love. He smiles and then gives his, last line about the moment being prepared for. And then he uses the last bit of his energy to kind of point for his... I like the way his hand just falls down like he just kind of runs out of energy. I love that. And then you get the merging there. And I like the regeneration effect with it. Kind of like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon there. I think that's fascinating. And that way Peter just looks up like, what? Anthony Ainley is great in it. I like how they keep him in shadow for a lot of the story, or where you see it kind of from that first-person point of view for the first, 2 or 3 parts. I think it's got some good cliffhangers. I feel bad for Aunt Vanessa. Is that her name? I feel kind of bad for her. And the police officer that gets found. I enjoy Logopolis. I don't think it's, amazing. I think Tom deserved a better final story. But I like Logopolis. I think it's fine. It's kind of a mixed bag of a season, while still being overall a strong season. I think the only... Ooh, I feel a little tired today. I think the only really bad story, if I was ranking them from worst to best, I would have Leisure Hive at the bottom. It's the only one, like I said, I consider to be really a bad story, while still not that hard to sit through. I think next on the list would probably be Full Circle. Again, I'm always kinder to that one fresh off a rewatch, but my reaction to it is not always the same after a rewatch, much like Androids of Tara. Sometimes I like it more than others, even fresh off a rewatch. Next on the list would probably be Logopolis, honestly. And then after that, I would say Meglos. Really close between those. I could flip those, I'm not sure. After Meglos, I would probably have Warrior's Gate. And then after Warrior's Gate, I would have Keeper of Traken. And then at the top, a bit of ways ahead of everything else, a bit ahead of everything else, I would have State of Decay, which I think is the best. And I think it's a good season. Again, it's a very different season. So many changes. This season also had the intro change. The first time the intro had changed since Tom Baker arrived in the show. With his intro in season 12, this is the first new intro we'd had since John left and Tom came on. Also, the first time the music had really changed. Really changed. I know you'd had the minor changes that people can nitpick about in the music, but the first real change of the music. So you had, this season just has such a different feel to it, with the Doctor in a new costume, with the Doctor himself acting a bit differently, much more somber and reined in, a new tone and feel, a new intro with the visuals and the audio. It's definitely a new time for Doctor Who, and a new decade for Doctor Who. But I still think Tom does really well in this final season. I think Lala's really well in this final season as well. And then I like the new companions being brought in that we would get for the next couple seasons, really. With Adric coming in here and staying, of course, through most of 19. We get Nissa introduced, and Nissa stays until about halfway through season 20. And then, of course, in the final story, we get Tegan, and Tegan stays for a while. She stays through most of season 21. And it's nice to have a story where Tegan gets to be with 4. I actually like Tegan with 4, even though it's just in that story. So I like season 18. I think it's really, really good. I want to know what you think of season 18, so comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that, get early access to videos and all that stuff. Plus, Sunday videos are now exclusive to Patreon, where the $5 tier and up get the first 2 weeks, and the $7.50 tier and up get every Sunday video added up where they can view it, the $7.50 and up tier, I should say. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, a link to my Amazon wishlist is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wishlist is also down there. I have several of these standard edition sets listed on that because I absolutely adore those. They look so good on the shelf. They really do. Just like the regular ones do. These look really good on the shelf. And most importantly, thank you for watching. And, what was that? Oh, Shatara fell. Technical difficulties. Let's see. This is going to be a pain in the neck to edit together, let me tell you.